Okay, let's talk about foreign policy. ShadeZ or ShadeZ. I don't actually know how to pronounce it. RTS is a relatively niche genre of games, but it's also a genre with quite the outsized influence. There is a reason for that. 20 to 30 years ago, RTS as a genre was as big as the shooter or RPG. It has long since fallen from the mainstream due to a variety of reasons, but if you want a quick scapegoat, you can just blame League of Legends. RTSs aren't unpopular by any means. There's still a quite large fan base, even if a chunk of it is approaching a half-century in age. Games are coming out and some very old entries are still getting updates. Fans are clearly passionate about the old genre. ShadeZ is born from that passion. Sean Cooper wanted to make something akin to a 2D Command & Conquer. If the name sounds vaguely familiar, Cooper is the guy that created the box set games. ShadeZ 1 is mostly here to establish a base concept for the gameplay. There's no campaign, just a seemingly endless survival mode in 4 slightly different stages. You start out only being able to send out basic troops, but you're immediately given the opportunity to unlock tanks and ground missiles. You're just meant to survive as many waves as possible while managing your funding. You lose if too many enemies make it to your side, and you get a refund when one of your units makes it to the enemy side. Our opponents also start out with basic soldiers. They're weak and have no way to deal with a tank. Next are trucks filled with bombs that drive directly into you. One tank isn't strong enough to take down a bomb truck before it crashes into them, but 2 tanks should have enough DPS. After that, they start bringing out long-range artillery trucks. Tanks get way outranged here, but at this point you would have likely unlocked helicopters already. They can't be hit by missiles. Also, you have your own missiles. The cheapest rocket does cost like 2 tanks, but they do very easily deal with enemy artillery, and you actually profit when destroying one because they give so much funding on def. Enemy biplanes also start showing up around this time. They don't really have like any direct weapons. I believe the translation would be, they divined wind into you. Lastly, there are these anti-air trucks. These pickups are the only units that can threaten your choppers. Use missiles. Once you get enough upgrades, you can easily fall into a routine. Send a couple of tanks and helicopters at the beginning and missile down any artillery and anti-air that shows up. You can do this for basically forever. Lots of upgrades to buy, but they aren't necessary. Transport choppers can put some grunts or tanks further into the field, but why would you? There's a lot of options for fancy explosives, but you don't really need them. The basic rocket is the most cost efficient. Although in deeper waves, you have nothing else to unlock and your funding is just going to get higher and higher. So at that point, why not? Universal healthcare for nobody. There actually is a plot here. You're a private mercenary force, fighting against internationally recognized enemies, whatever that means. They seem to have enough funds for long-range missiles, but are still desperate enough that they have kamikaze trucks and kamikaze regular. I mean, this was made in like 2007. These type of bombers may be topical. What am I saying? I'm not exactly able to know what Sean Cooper was thinking at the time. So anyway, in ShadeZ 2, the enemy forces are now an army of murderous robots. They explicitly don't have emotions or feelings, but they do have an instinct to kill. They appeared out of nowhere, and in ShadeZ 3, it turns out they're aliens. The trilogy's RTS inspiration is more pronounced here. We have buildings, a power grid, and resource gathering now. The usual build path is power plant into resource center, into barracks, into nuclear power plants, into tank factories, into helicopter factories, into missile factories. If you want heavier duty stuff, you're going to stack nuclear plants. Unit production buildings like the barracks, factories, and airfields will stop production if the power grid is overwhelmed. And miscellaneous buildings like the radar and turrets just stop working. Gold deposits are scattered throughout the map, and they can run out, which may force your trucks to search for far more dangerous deposits. Depending on level, the machines go through a very similar process of building up structures and units, minus the gold gathering. There is an upgrade system, but it's fairly bare bones. The game doesn't tell you what's being increased when you level things. It's a generic level 1 to 5 across the board, and it's all the same price. It feels far too cheap to get something maxed out. I'm pretty sure building levels only increase the health of the specific structure. Meanwhile, basically every single unit gets godly stats for cheap. The game is jank as all hell, and the full game is out of my reach. ShadeZ 2 was made at a point where Flash game devs were trying to partially monetize their creations. A good 40% of the game is behind a paywall, and it seems you can't buy it anymore, so I guess those levels and units are just gone now. I've encountered some consistent lag, even when nothing is happening. It isn't that much of an issue, but it happens. Rocket troopers can just steamroll the entire game. Well, there are some levels where the main objective is to evacuate some civilians, and it's more of a puzzle there. But in any level where you have to destroy something, the rocket soldiers are incredibly cheap and efficient. Missile trucks are essentially just the rocket troopers with more health, but they also cost like 4 times the amount. Honestly, the main reason why rocket units are so good here is the importance of anti-air. Heavy tanks are the strongest ground units, but if a machine is a few feet off the ground, they can't do anything. The helicopters are fairly strong, but very expensive, surprisingly squishy, and pretty deep into the building chain. Guided rockets are last to be unlocked. Them being that far in the chain as expensive units you can only use once makes them nearly worthless. There's a skirmish mode that's a direct 1v1 between you and the machines. Almost all campaign missions are built on this basic setup. The structures you can build will sometimes be limited to force you to make a certain type of army, or maybe your base has already been built and you just have to defend it. The final mission has everything you can build already built for you, and you start with an insane amount of money. The machines are also in a very similar setup, but that doesn't mean much when you've been given the Federal Reserve. Because you have so much money, cost efficiency just becomes a nerdy stat.
Too easy.
So that's a quick overview of ShadeZ 2's gameplay. Again, parts of the game are jank as all hell and it's a bit too easy in places, but I still had fun with it. It's a simplified but good representation of the RTS genre. The trilogy is likely the best RTS Flash game out there, simply because no other game has really tried to emulate the genre as well as ShadeZ has. I haven't really talked about anything beyond gameplay. In general, it's all fairly competent but not super noteworthy. Background music and sound effects are fine, and voice lines can get annoying. It's clearly evolved from 1. It's moved from proof of concept to near final form. It's seemingly reached the final form at the very end. ShadeZ 3. Earth's been defended, so the fight is now at the moon. Your units got a future tech makeover. They look slightly cooler now and less generic. Most of your units function the same as before, but things have been rebalanced a bit. There's a global reduction to the health pool. Rocket troopers are still cheap and deal a good amount of anti-everyone damage, but because they're squishier, you can't just spam them anymore. I do wonder how much of this is because you can no longer easily get any unit to max upgrades. Most of the stat cuts are likely from that. The new progression system is... oh, it's Kingdom Rush. For a good amount of time, that was like the most popular Flash game. Achievements grant you some stars, and you get up to 3 stars for beating a level. What determines the star rating in each level? Honestly, that's kind of unclear. ShadeZ 3 still has moments of random lag, but it's notably less than 2, and I just got used to it. Some levels are puzzles that introduce specific mechanics. I assume later levels are scenario battles. I say assume because I can't get the game to work beyond this level. I don't know why, I don't know how to fix it, and it has froze on me repeatedly. This level has the machines constantly firing a barrage of rockets at your base, teaching you to build shield generators. You also fly your soldiers over a big cliff. I thought it was a combination of lots of transporter units and the constant missiles that crashed it, so I decided to take it slow. It just froze on me again. By the way, this level was not easy to beat slowly. That's a thing about ShadeZ 3, it's actually quite a bit harder. I never got to see the endgame, so I'm just assuming the level design got fleshed out deeper in the campaign. I did try to figure it out. Maybe the issue was Flashpoint, so I went directly to Crazy Monkey Games and Ruffles would not even load up. I've had content from Flash games made unavailable to me before. Sinjid had an extra island you could only go to if you connect an Armored Games account, but the game could not connect to the servers anymore. That was a door having no key. This is more like the walls having no doors. The main reason I'm even talking about this game is because one guy kept asking for it in the comments. I'm fairly certain that they don't even watch me anymore. I promised myself to do it months ago, and I have a hard time pivoting commitments. What can I do? Maybe I'll try again at a later point. Sean Cooper is far more known for his Boxhead series. Boxhead Immortal is trying to continue that legacy. Although as far as I can tell, it's been rather slow going. ShadeZ was a lesser known child in a less popular genre. I would like to see the trilogy be refined further, but I'm just happy Cooper is still going with Boxhead. Hello. A decision has been made about what's next.